back, and we are moving into our first segment for today. We're having a conversation about the zoning ordinance legislation. Joining us on set, we have George Locarno, who is a traffic coordinator with the Belize City Council. We have in the middle Carla Patnett, who's the city planner for the Belize City Council. And on the end, Troy Smith, evaluation manager, also of the Belize City Council. Good morning and welcome.
Morning.
And thank you for being here.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, so we're talking about this very important topic, and I want to just set the background. We've been talking about zoning. The conversation has come up since the past administration and for several years. What has been the work that's been going in to prepare ourselves to get this legislation together?
First of all, most of the work has been going on in the planning department. Mm-hmm. That's where I am. Mm-hmm. And in my department, we receive plans, we receive applications for persons that want to and have intentions of developing their properties. Yeah. And so we receive those applications, we process them, so we're very much aware of all the different developments that are going on.
Yeah.
And from those, from that information, we have a land use map because we're able to tell the use of each one of the parcels in the city. Mm-hmm. We also get additional information from our evaluation department. Mm-hmm. And from that land use map, we're able to see what's available, what can be developed, what is being developed, what should be, and what shouldn't be developed. Yeah. And so we have started this process by having our land use map. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we've also seen that that shows a vision of the city. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about planning, you want to know where is it that we want to go. Mm-hmm. And as you can see around us, Belize is growing very quickly.
Yes.
And so we want to have this development be in a better organized, more sustainable way. So planning have us look at the vision of what we want Belize City to look like. Yeah. And in that sense, in addition to the applications that come in, not only for the physical building, we need other tools in order for us to make that vision what we want it to be. So it needs to be more organized, more persuasive.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about zoning or planning for Belize City, it's almost like talking about what we should have done instead of what we can do. Yeah. You know, one of the classic examples that we can use right now is the aftermath of the fire in San Pedro. Where following a disaster, we start talking about congestion of homes. Mm-hmm. We have a very similar situation in some areas here in Belize City. What would be the purpose of now putting in regulations if the city has pretty much reached its capacity as to what you can use?
I believe that the city is developing as we speak. Mm-hmm. If you look at in the Port Loyola area, the Collect Division, St. Martin's Division, Belama Phase 4, 5, the city is actually expanding. And so it's important that what happened in the past we cannot change, but we can change what happened going forward. Hence the reason why the Bella Vista zoning bylaw already passed in 2003, and then the Western Diva zoning bylaw was passed. We have on the table now the Kings Park and the Palm Grove Estate bylaw. Why? Because we see it's important, as I said, developing land, say acreage of land undeveloped. And so before you try to approve these plans, we have to have zoning which will control within the area. That affects me as a tax person because you find the taxation rule fluctuate because you have different, on one street, different land use. Mm-hmm. On one street, you got a bar, you got a church, you got a club, you got a hotel, you got a restaurant.
Has to be a grocery store.
So it bring the taxation at different levels, so you're not equitable because due to the land use of the property component. So we believe that by getting this zoning in control the city, by putting zoning in place, we have better, more equitable taxation, and this is where I am appealing to the property owners that when you build, there's a process, there's a law in place that you just go and just build. There's setback, there is building codes. Mm-hmm. And you'll find in some pages the issue of the fire houses side by side, hence the reason why you have a setback. So in the case of a fire, the traffic department has a flow to go into your property and naturally try to bring easement to the fire. But end of the day, we believe in the zoning because the city is already congested already. Everything is close by. And I listened to the issue of the, because if you know that the zoning bylaw does really get amended, so this comes from an LBA to a building unit. So we work close with CBA. So there's better correlation with national government and with local government.
And I'm glad you touched on that, because having conversations with both LBA, CBA, and it may have been the chamber, but there was a separate entity. The challenges with having a central building authority and a local building authority is understanding who has the responsibility to respond, or who has more authority in any given situation. So CBA may tell me, fine, I can extend my veranda up to the fence if I want, but the local building authority will come and say, no, I can't. So who has more authority? Talk to us about why this was important to address the overlaps that existed.
Well, the importance for, as we look at that, is that in the new legislation now, that the LBA that was has the authority to approve plan under 5,000 square feet. And above 5,000 square feet is CBA. With this new legislation now, the CBA and the LBA actually have to work together in relation to all plans. And yes, the plans come to the Belize City Council under the 5,000 square feet, then it goes to the plan department, then that goes to CBA for approval. So there's a level now of clarity, of authority. Also the issue of share revenue, when because they get a portion of that money under the new legislation. So it's working good now. It's more a better correlation with the building unit and with CBA. So there's no longer this fight of, well, City Council, LBA approve it, no, CBA can't override LBA. There's a joint need now that we work together, so there's no confusion in the use of the plan.
I wanted you to clarify something that you said, which was that there is an inequity in the taxing structure because in certain areas you have bars, hotels. I thought that those were things that, well, for schools and things like that, they actually increase your property value. Could you unpack that a bit for me?
Inequity means that when you have a hotel, this is a commercial use and a bar, or a church, or residential, there are certain entity of value. What happened, a person would not want to buy a property where there's a club for their children, so that depreciate my value, that not really curb my value. The school exempt by law. School don't pay tax, all right? The government use public buildings don't pay tax. So when we talk about bars and schools and church, it all depends on the land use of the property component. For example, then, I have a house and a bar is telling me, you will find people travel and park in front of your house because there's no land use space for parking. And this is the reason why we talk about the control of the zoning. Because if I'm zoning, I live in a society where I think I got a better parking, the type of people coming to the area. And this is why the King's Park, and this is why the Western River is saying, hey, what, we need to get zone. Because there are too much different types of activity in the area. It harvests type of people to come in my area, and it actually brings some more risks in a sense.
And what does it do in terms of, as Marlene was saying, that, well, it's, I have one of my favorite words for Belize is oxymoronic. City planning to me is a joke. I mean, we come from a society where even the British weren't planning for here. They just, doing what they were doing. And so we have streets like Tiger Street, these very small congested areas. But in terms of what we already have, does city planning and does this legislation deal with fixing some of the congestion that we already have? Does it go retrospective to say, okay, we're going to zone off Kings Park. So whole that BTL Park with that whole noise September, no more pay one bar. That does have to go. Does it work retrospectively as well, the legislation, zoning legislation?
The ordinance is a tool that we're going to use to regulate. And it has to be a tool that we can fall back on, so it needs to be legislated, it needs to be a law. This law will not be retrospective.
So once the bar is already there, and I have a problem with it?
Once it's there,
stuck.
you will remain, everyone will remain for the land use that we have. Because
let me clarify this a bit. So let's use an example. The park, I think, is a bit different. But if I live in Kings Park, where we know they've had quite a bit of conversations before and fiery consultations, and I created a business that people didn't want. You know, maybe it was a shop that turned into a bar and just, you know, makes my life living hell. The zoning legislation is passed, and it now becomes a predominantly residential area. When the time comes up for the trade license or for the business license, can it not be a time then to kind of redress the issues that have been, the mistakes that have been made?
What will happen is that that business will become, when the zoning ordinance is in place, will become a non-conforming land use. So it will remain that way. When that property owner wants to do something to the property, when they want to expand, when they want to change the use, then the zoning ordinance will ask that that property owner or that land use become in conformity with the ordinance.
Okay.
So that is when you will see the change. So you might not see the change tomorrow, but it will be developed with time.
Okay.
Say if it's a bar and remains a bar, it's going to stay there forever. That's what you're saying. It's only if they try to put on an extra room.
When you try to do something to change that land use. Expand, when you expand a building, when you add to a building, when you refurbish a building, you need a building permit. And that's when the legislation comes into play.
Yeah.
I like the idea because now with this new legislation, we talk about developers and investment. There's a lot of properties unoccupied right now in Kingspan. With this new zoning bylaw or this land use act, the issue of what type of business must go there, it also linked with the trade license. See what happened in recent past, people just build and then apply for a trade license and they get denied. And then we go to an injunction component. With this now, that the CBA, the LB and the trade license board and even the liquor license board tie in the type of activity going there. So before you put dollar into investment, you need to ensure that that type of construction will get approved for your license. It was the other way around. People build, then apply. And then you invest all this money, you borrow a loan at the bank, and then your license gets denied. There lies the problem. So we address the issue of developer before you invest, get all the different clearances with the different authorities.
Okay. Carla, one of the things that I think we need to address is people hearing this conversation will be saying, you know what, we need more development. We need sometimes, I need a supermarket on my street. I don't want to go to the street, the next street across. And so that conversation sometimes we want to see the city develop and the zoning and that we want to move towards often seem to be counterproductive. How do you explain to people why city planning and zoning will move to a more developed community?
The zoning is planned. So you look at where we are, you see the map physically, and you look at what areas should be designated as commercial, for example. And the zoning ordinance is based on a code-based technique that has been used in cities all over the world. So this technique, this code-based technique regulates where we have the more dense areas. Yeah. For example, along major streets, major avenues. Those major areas are capable of handling the more higher buildings, the more dense buildings. Yeah. From there, we go further to low density and then to green and open spaces. Yeah. So it's based on a technique and a code that makes sense, that regulates, and it takes into account not only the physical building, it takes into account economic development, it takes into account transportation, the way we move around the city.
When legislation is passed, one of the things that people who are drafting it look for is whatever mischief can be made by passing legislation, the invisible hand. And my concern is, does the zoning for existing areas where, has been established, and the way that the legislation is drafted, does it create a sort of disadvantage for new businesses? Because what it means is that everyone who currently has a business is frozen and secured. There will be no competition for them expanding going forward. So if I already have a bar, for example, in an area that I'm not supposed to have a bar, and the legislation is passed, no new bars can come around there, so I own that entire market. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What will be part of the ordinance?
And the law protects me.
What will be part of the ordinance as well is incentives. We have
Money is the best
Areas.
incentive there.
Y-
I
well-
monopolize that market.
we would like to encourage people to conform that has a non-conforming land use to become a conforming land use. So part of the process will be to encourage people to move to that land use.
Yeah.
So it will be part of a communication and negotiation with people so that we get the vision and we get the plan that we want for the city.
Yeah.
Well, I like that idea because when we were looking at
I don't.
the issue of the Bella Vista zoning, indeed, it lacking what is there, and then it bring no competition because no other type of that business will no longer be there. But to me, the real sense is how do you want your city in the next 10 to 15, 20 years? You want to have a haphazard city in relation to too much bar, too much hotel, too much restaurant. So there need to be a stop and there needs to be some kind of control, but it's not really taking at what you're saying, indeed, stop the competition because only one bar here and also I live in until I to the degree and no other bar will come. It's more control. My zone is about control your city and regulate certain component in the sense of Belize City, no, it's not going so, we're going up, it's expand. There's no space in spreading, we are talking about going up, what words are horizontal onwards. So the idea of that is true. Can we think about that? That was what somebody said, my goodness, so no, you just make one man and make all this money in this area, but it's not really, why that might be so, is to stop all the, maybe, I don't want to say the hazard way of building and to put more control within the area.
I
For
hear what you're
betterment of
saying.
lifestyle.
I hear what you're saying. There has to be a starting point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not a starting point we like, but there has to be a starting point. Yes, absolutely. And I want to bring you into the conversation as traffic coordinator because that's often perhaps one of the most important areas we miss. I'm looking now at let's use, for example, the Philip Golson Highway. People have homes and properties and businesses there. They don't have any parking space. We know you're not supposed to park on a highway, but it still happens. If you live next to a business, well, you better hope that no parking sign, people can read it or care about it. Tell us about how traffic control is integrated in the zoning ordinance.
But with the zoning ordinance, it make it much easier and better for us, or the departments for us. By zoning and planning, it's much easier for the traffic to flow within the city. So it do help us a lot by zoning the areas.
Yeah.
So we don't have that congestion with traffic.
What are the challenges we're seeing now that you hope would be addressed?
Well, the challenges we're facing with it right now, if we're talking about the tourism village area, where it's much difficult, the difficulties will be most of us when in a ship days with these buses that through the city. So that's a problem we face within that area during the course of whenever there's ship days, is a problem that we face. So with zoning the areas now, it's much easier for us.
Can I ask this question? I have a couple of friends who will not forgive me if I didn't ask you this question. What is the position of the traffic department in terms of the expansion of the Philip Golson Highway, particularly the area that turns into, that's a residential area. Belama phase 1, phase 2, but you can't get in there. You have to go all the way up to Roundabout and come all the way back down. If you're going to DK Supermarket, you have to travel 60 miles to come back down. Is there a possibility of revisiting that, of having some sort of, in terms of the long-term planning of it, to have the residents have a say? Because a simple thing, it's not only the persons who are affluent that it affects. A simple thing like the bus, if you're on the city bus going to Belama, you have to basically go all the way up to Belama phase 4 and come around to get to Belama phase 1, unless you walk across the highway with your groceries. Is there any way of looking at that to see?
Well, it's something that we are looking at because we realize the difficulties that people will face, the challenges, as I said earlier, and go all the way up the turn wherever there's a roundabout. So it'll be difficult, especially for the residents who live within the areas. So instead of you coming out the areas and make a left down into the city, you got to go all the way up, turn to the roundabout and come back down. So it's something that we are looking at to revisit. So we are looking at meeting probably with these guys from Cisco, where we can revisit areas where we can make some gaps in between. So we look at that's something that we are looking at.
So would you
But
say-
wasn't this, see, isn't it counterproductive? Because we were explained a very long time ago that this is because of in emergencies, if there's an evacuation, it has to be done, it's control. Turning left into any lane causes traffic obstruction. So that's been the main explanation so far. So is it the public pressure that's now having us go back to look at this? So when there is an evacuation, people want to turn left and we have backed up traffic, they'll say, but why did they do it then? I mean, there has to be some kind
They
of...
can block it off.
There has to be some kind of stop
Well,
to
the
say
public
this
pressure is
is...
something that we always face on a daily basis, something you have to look at because the public will always be there.
Yeah.
No care what you do, they will always have a problem in what you do. So there's something we got to revisit and look at. Okay?
This is such a great example, and that's why I want to get back to the zoning. We want a developed city. We love going to the United States and we love going to Mexico, and we have a great idea as to what a block has and how to get around. We love that you can figure out how to maneuver in traffic. But when we want to bring it here, then everybody, oh, no, I like the way it was. You know, we don't like change.
That's one of our problems.
Yeah, and my question is two things though, because one, if the right person complains, we see, and that's where the inequity exists in this country, and we never see laws for everybody. We think of who's going to escape the law. What is the extra measures being put in place that whatever city plan, whatever zoning is put in place, that Troy friend, and I only use you because you sit in front of me, doesn't get a license to a bar in a residential area or a grocery store, while others are completely boxed out. I think when we talk, and it's the same thing, you know, you create an evacuation plan and then the right people complain and then it becomes, okay, well, maybe we need a gap. This is where we always do one step forward, 3 steps backwards.
I would say, I go a bit further. Instead of saying the right people complain, I would say the public complains, because we make plans, but at the same time, everybody else out there is the one that uses, they have their daily lives, they use the street, they use the buildings, they use the services around them, so they know how they function, as not only as a household, but as a community. So there needs to be communication, consultation with the public. They are the one out there that use these infrastructure, these services. And as with the traffic department and the issues, when people speak, we need to listen. When it comes to the ordinance as well, it's the same thing. We have planned what we would like the city to be, to look at, how we would like it to look. We have the areas that are zoned, and we would like each property owner out there come out and look at it and tell us, do you think it would be something that's beneficial for you?
Yeah.
Do you want it, do you think it should be changed? So we have been putting it out to everybody out there, and we encourage people to come in and visit our website. We've done several public consultations because we want the feedback.
So what you're saying is now is the time
Yes.
to get, because there usually is some kind of public vetting period for most projects.
Yes.
Not when it's completed
No.
and we have to waste money to do it over, but now. Let's talk about some of the critical changes that we're seeing. We're seeing residential areas being established and some for commercial use as well. Let's talk about those differentiated areas in the city.
Okay. The majority of the land use is residential.
Yeah.
And there are different levels of residential. There's low density and there's high density. That we want to keep neighborhoods remaining more or less the same. There's some people that only want residential land use. There's others that would like to do their business. So there's mixed uses in some areas, and there's traditional neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, and there's also the commercial areas and industrial areas. The industrial areas, for example, we would like not to have incompatibility with the residential areas, so we have done some proposed areas for the industrial
One of the things I've read so far is that there is we're encouraging people to do more high rises rather than trying to expand in the city. Is this something that will be incentivized? How are we moving towards this push? And what areas are we talking about?
If you go downtown, there's no space to expand.
Yeah.
None. And we are fine where we have an issue with parking, especially downtown. I think today we have a consultation at the Sylvester Memorial Center. Look at the south side, zoning south side with some IDB representative to discuss and engage people, because we find where people come from afar and park on Albert Street and go to work, there's no space downtown.
Yeah.
And so the idea to go up is a need. Not a want, is a need. And you have now the undeveloped area that we can also control now with this new zoning, with this regulation, to encourage people that when you're the bill, make sure you be able to set back and go up. Because you can only expand to a certain amount. Most properties like 50 by 75, some 50 by 50. You find rare on the north side 100 by 75 property. So the property they really dense and very unique in its own state. But so to get people to understand, because people build account to the economic needs, not build because I have money, I borrow a loan. And so I have to build account to where I can afford. And even have to want to discuss the issue of you talk about disadvantage, where in past that certain area can build a certain type of house. But house can be in a certain area. Expect that you can afford that, you cannot build because there's a regulation say above 50,000 above. I understand all that. So there's a lot of study done to look at the regulation before you bring it in. But the most important is citizen engagement, citizen participation. So when you pass something, people don't know where. In the council right now, we have this 3E, and we believe in this 3E. Before you enforce, engage. When you engage, you educate. You don't have to enforce. Get people involved, educate people, and your friends establish the enforce. And so the regulations about that, get people involved with decision making. Policymakers make these policies and laws. We have, as administrators, we need to implement it. But before, engage people and get people involved.
As you talk about downtown now, and we're talking about planning,
Yeah.
it seems that where Belize City is going long term, it's not just up, but it's out of the nipple of Belize, of downtown Belize. The new commercial center, I believe, and you guys can correct me, you guys are the experts, is now the Coney Drive. This is the new downtown.
Yeah.
So as much as the energy we're focusing on, are we misplacing our energies? Because even in terms of climate resilience, that is a flood-prone area.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more higher. It's a little higher. And so maybe focusing on downtown might not be where we should be focusing our energy.
Yeah, over the past years, we saw that, if you look at the Central American Boulevard, it's more a liver area than downtown. And we look at the Northern Highway and the Coney Drive area, indeed, that's where more business is focusing on due to the high rise than the low rise Albert Street. But when we use downtown, we want to bring back downtown in the sense that people can have that easy access to the commercial banks, institutions, and so that you could actually walk downtown. But when I say focus, that's under the rejuvenation plan, the issue of, it's not only for the tourists, but also for Belize first. Because you have to think about Belize first. We always talk about tourists, and forget the common man in your city or in your country. So we look at, we try to balance that, because indeed we find where investors now are living downtown and going on the highway, going to drive, and even the boulevard, I find they get really very high traffic. And so you find
if you look at the
investors try to invest.
88 area, that has more activity at night than downtown. Yeah.
But the issue of, that one you mentioned, issue of crime is a concern.
Yeah.
But downtown, the entire country, crime. However, how you bring back downtown is the issue of planning. There we go again, planning. Next 10 years, how you want downtown to be. I mean, it's the word downtown, I don't want to understand, because the commercial center now becomes City Hall now. Then you have this attraction of high traffic again, because people will access the commercial center. Where is parking?
Yeah.
If you use the parking behind this parking lot, they're not distant of walking.
But
But the idea is to bring that change. You have to bring change. You cannot. I was in Taiwan recently the same, and I find something beautiful. In Taiwan, I still come in Belize, because it's only one city where you have this development department, whether government change, for the job is to look at Taiwan for the next 20 years. How we move Taiwan. With the station, that's the idea, how we move Belize City to a different modern. I use the word development, I use the word modern, because I think the change. Modern is the access flow. Parking meters, the next issue we could talk about, but that's not the time and place. The issue of high-rise parking facilities. And so all these are in the plans to look at downtown and anyway, where we take properties now and build parking facilities that you could address. So that is the next challenge we're looking at.
That's been an idea that's been floated around for
Yeah,
a
for
while.
many
Has
years,
there
yeah.
been any interest in building a parking facility downtown?
Well, there is thoughts in it behind the niche parking lot, which belongs to the Belize City Council, to put a parking facility there. Again, everything takes time and money. All right, but again, we're looking at all that issue of the parking, for not only Belize City, I mean downtown, but the entire city. Look at the Mirror property, you see tremendous parking space. Look at the Belize park. So you look at these type of businesses where now with the control of the zoning between the CBA and LBA, parking is a must. You want parking.
So if you're going to build, you got to build with parking in mind.
Especially now, Belize City is moving to this strata title, this condo. We call it condo in the other part of the country, but we call it strata. Look at the high-rise building, but different floor. You could own a different floor, but the parking, so each floor must have one parking.
Yeah.
So all these type, but then say the issue that he was talking about is the tourism village. There was no plan properly done.
Yeah.
When a village gone, you know, that people will market for residential and bam, the zone, and then what happen? You have to figure out where you park, how you regulate this whole sector, then bus and these vans. And so you'll find yourself now they have to go back to the drawing table and say, what, because they have a plan, we got to go back. With this zone now, you have to control now to go forward.
Miss Patnett, you know, I'm concerned, I have to go, I find, to comb through the proposed legislation. I assume that it's at a bill stage now. But is there any corrective mechanism in the proposed legislation? Because there are two things. In my head, every time I think about zoning, my favorite example of how ridiculous and how offensive our growth has been as a city is that there's a house in the middle of a street in Carla, in the middle, smack middle of the street. And what we did was, rather than move the house, our brave and smart leaders over the years build the street around the house.
There you go.
Rather than just, to me, any common sense person would think, just move the house. But it brings me to the second point, which is, as we're planning for the expansion, there are things called squatters' rights. How does that affect the way that we plan? Because the way that works, I understand. Somebody finds a piece of land. That land is not, they don't go to the land department and say, oh, 1521 is 50 by 75. I'm going to squat exactly here and build my fence around it. They just go on a piece of land, chop it out, and that might bridge 3 or 4 properties. It might be, and when they go to get their rights actualized in terms of prescriptive rights, that is what is given to them. So how do we properly plan without having a corrective mechanism that allows for us to regulate so that all the lots are equal and they reflect a broader plan without a corrective mechanism in there?
Well, one of the objectives, as we've all been mentioning for the past few minutes, is the planning. One of the things that the zoning ordinance and the land use map shows is needs. We see the issue with the squatting. It's very, very intense. And so we see the need for housing. We see the need for strategic projects with the land use map. So one of the projects, it could be private or public investment, is housing. And it's absolutely necessary. We need to take a closer look at it. So that situation needs to be addressed in a totally complete solution. And that's the way we need to handle it. People need to live somewhere. You know, you cannot look at a couple with 5 children and say, you know, you can't spend the night there. You know, it's something that needs to be looked at comprehensively.
Yeah.
And at the same time, with the zoning ordinance, it's the communication that we're doing right now, the feedback that we want. There is a flexibility within the ordinance. There can be change.
Yeah.
There's a process that will be built in that we would have to go through. And if a group of people say like we would want to change something, we'd go through a process
Yeah.
of public consultation. The neighbors would have to come together and decide is it something that we would like to do or not to do. And then an analysis, a technical analysis will also be made.
Yeah.
And so it is possible to change part of the land use in the ordinance.
And that's important for people to know now.
Yes.
You're having public consultations as well with some of the zoning?
This Thursday, we're
Okay.
having one on the south part of the city.
Okay. You
And
already had the north
Anglican,
side one.
We already had. And
How was
we've
the
had
turnout?
several. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. We had a cross section of residents that came out
Yeah.
and are still interested. We have the proposal on our website as well, so you can look at it, you can download it, you can go through it,
Yeah.
you know, in detail and give us our feedback. So we have on Thursday at the Diocese Anglican Center on Regent Street, and so we ask, you know, everybody to come out to listen, to
Yeah.
hear, get accustomed to it, get introduced to it, and give us our feedback.
Let me just quickly, I love that question. We just recently on Friday mitigate one and the same problem there, where people build on the street. You have two kind of enforcement issue of the civil matter, where people build on some of the private property. The city council have no control of that. But where you build on the public street, there where you come in, because we just recently, a couple of years ago, moved a fence from an altar 75 feet, carried the person to the court, and then the entire 75 feet of fence a couple of years ago. We just recently moved a building off our street that was in front of a person's property. So that is important because the issue of the plan, you see an area undeveloped, you just go in and start to build, not knowing that these things are already surveyed and have ownership. And then sometimes you build off from the property because you don't have no plan. And then the next problem we face in the city, you give yourself your own number. When the property will have a number, you give yourself, so you find the same number here. Because what they do, they look for numbering. And because they don't go to lands and check the plan, they will say, like, for call it 7636, where we have a 7636 on the other side,
Oh, wow.
they put E. So we have these problems. So I believe with this zoning, with this whole issue of this consultation, these are where these things come out. These are where we educate people and bring people to understand that you can't do it, man. But again, people don't wait for development, they develop.
Yeah.
All right, so
That
we,
is the-
next thing we have to move fast when we come to this
Yeah.
area we call declared area.
So as we wrap up this conversation, you keep on saying that the proposal is accessible on the website, so people can look it over there.
Yeah.
What would you say to residents, you have this outside consultation coming up, about why it's important to hear firsthand from you the proposed changes and that they do have an input at this point?
The conversation continues. So when you come out, we have a conversation and you get answers right away.
Okay.
So that's the feedback that we want. We want you to look at the map, find your parcel on the map and see what zone it's designated in.
Yeah.
And then you're able to get more details as to what is it the zoning ordinance will be regulating.
Yeah.
It will be regulating the density, the height of the building, the setbacks. And so you're able to get a better conversation as to what is it that will be expected of you and what is it that you would expect from the zoning ordinance.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and initiating the conversation on what this means. Thank you very much and best of luck.
Thank you
Thank
too.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the art of performing. So stay tuned.